Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today I have my day 625 roster review. So I got to tell you, I do these every 30 days or so by popular request. Didn't realize how much people were interested in this stuff. And what I do in these videos is I walk through what changes I have made over the past month to my roster. I explain why I made those changes. And then I also use that as a way of kind of talking to you about what you should do with your roster and bigger things happening in the game. This is not a flex video, nothing to be proud of, like, oh, I've got this character. That's not what this is about. The goal is to use my roster as a way to help you, and this is something people have asked a lot for. So, like I said, this is day 625. My last video was day 588, so this is 37 days later. I just beat DD5 for the first time 2 days ago. So it's 623 days played or so. This is a very good time for me to do one of these kind of an inflection point in my account. Last time, it's day 588, 37 days ago, I was at 18.51 million TCP. So I gained 1.3 something million in 1 month, a little over 37 days. The reason why is because I was racing for Dark Dimension 5. So as most of you guys know, I'm a big hoarder. I focus a lot on hoarding and saving my resources and so forth. And I hoard so I can use them for things like this. So, for example, you've seen me, in other videos talk about, oh, I have all this orange gear or whatever. Well, now, not so much anymore. If you look here, it's like I have under 1,000 SBCs left, 1,600 here, only 600 of these. Now, I still have a lot of these orbs. Don't get me wrong, okay? And I'm going to dip into those at some point soon. But the main focus here is to just spend gear like crazy to get through DD3, get through DD5 as fast as I could. So, that's what I did. Let's look at what I did and who I upgraded. Now, I did a separate video talking about the choices I made for DD5. And what I'll say to you guys is, I'm going to not talk about DD5 strategy here. I have a whole separate video that I've already done on that. But the goal here is to talk about what I did to different teams in my roster and the impact it had. So let me just go through the teams on my roster, and we'll talk about what changes I've made. AIM, I've done nothing. This is still, where it is. I mean, my roster's gotten bigger. It is still, though, very thin at the bottom. This was a moment in my roster for me to actually elevate. Now there's a new gear tier. The characters that actually matter in your roster, and I still am trying to neglect the characters that just don't. I mean, in other words, if any of these characters get reworked, sure, I'm gonna be all over that. But until then, I don't really see the value there. So, I am no longer the smallest in my alliance. I was by far the smallest until very recently, but now I'm third from the bottom, I guess, just barely squeaking past the other two. So, I made a lot of progress doing that, but I'm not going to upgrade teams like AIM. Asgardian, similarly. Now, people have been using Loki in Arena, particularly in offense, because he fills the speed bar of Mystic Controller allies by 10%, but he does that even at Gear Tier 11. So I don't really see any point in, upgrading this team at all. This is not upgraded at all. Astonishing X-Men, not upgraded since the last time. I still have Gear Tier 14 on Iceman and Kitty Pryde. That's what I needed for difficulty 2 and 3. I didn't need that at difficulty 1. When I go to, going to some of my other teams, I did put on Black Order. I finally put Blue ISO and Cull Obsidian. I had it previously on Thanos and Ebony Maw. Have not yet done it on Proxima and Corvus, although that's on the to-do list. It's not an important team for me anymore. It's just Yet another war team. Brotherhood, I have not upgraded at all. Sabretooth really isn't on that team anymore. And then, Eternals, that's a new one for me. Okay, so the Eternals are definitely a team that I invested heavily in. I do that with all the new teams. People are asking me, will I bring them up to gear tier 16? Yeah, I do intend to do that because I think they're so powerful in arena and so forth. I just haven't done it yet because, first of all, I think I'm short on orange gear right now, and I've got to do teal gear, figure out where I'm at in teal gear as well. I just haven't done that yet, but these are probably the only, Dormammu's the only character I brought to gear tier 16 after beating DD5, and I'll probably bring these two characters up as well. That's about it. I would advise the rest of you not to bring characters to gear tier 16 unless it's part of a strategy that you're using for DD5. Fantastic Four, the only upgrade I made was to Invisible Woman. That was purely for DD5. It's a bad investment otherwise. That's just a team that I had upgraded a month or so ago when they increased the war slots just to have another war team. And that's really all I would consider it, is another war team. Guardians are trash. Gamora is obviously part of another team. Drax is very useful in war as a throw-in on certain teams, particularly on defense. This is just the minimum level to beat the event. Elektra's part of a different team now. Let's see. Heroes for Hire. I would not recommend investing extra in this team at this point. I don't see the point in it unless you're going up at your level of war. The opponents don't have Weapon X. If your opponents don't have Weapon X, this is useful for war, but more defense. I brought Misty Knight to DD5 solely because she didn't use Health Catalyst and was reasonably, low requirements and reasonably useful for City. Hydra, now I have done more there. I don't think it was this month. This was something that I done. Yeah, I done this in a previous month. I don't think. All right, maybe I did. It was this month that I brought Hydra Sniper up to gear tier 14 and Red Skull up to gear tier 14. Those are investments that I made purely for war because I'm trying to get my attack teams to a spot where they can do well versus Legion, which is the other big super big alliance, and wanted to make sure I could do that. If you look at my war attack teams, for example, or at least some of them here, I've got, you can see, so 627 is actually fairly small against them. I use Winter Soldier just because I needed him for that event. You could use another minion. Infinity Watch, I did upgrade. I think I finally did Moondragon's basic because I brought her to DD5, and I brought these two to DD5, but other than that, this team just sits where it's at right now. That's basically, that's a team that I'm not going to be upgrading more at this point. Inhumans haven't upgraded more at all. Some people, some people brought Black Bolt to DD5. I wasn't really tempted to do that. I think he's more useful though in the meta than Invisible Woman by a little bit, although I don't think he's as good within the nodes. Kree I haven't done anything with other than Phyla-Vell, because of DD5. Marauders haven't upgraded at all other than Sabretooth, who not even on that team anymore. Mercenaries, I did do an upgrade. So Mercenaries, I put I put Blue ISO on Merc Riot Guard, Blue ISO on Merc Lieutenant, and I brought Merc Riot Guard to gear tier 14 because I have him at 7 red stars, and also because this team is used with Doom on defense more and more now. So these three characters at the front here, Taskmaster, Merc Riot Guard, Merc Lieutenant, with Shuri and Doom. So since I was going to do that, I'm like, oh, well, I had already had Blue ISO on Taskmaster. I put Blue ISO on these characters, but I have a ton of Blue ISO because we've been raiding Doom 2 for a long, Doom raids for a long, long, long time. So it's just, I have a lot sitting around. Let's see here. Skill Military, have not really upgraded this team since the last video. I had brought Red Guardian and Punisher to Blue ISO previously for war. Team that I think is less useful now, less effective. The new Warrior team, Very happy to have brought Cloak and Dagger to DD5, and this team is really awesome for me in raids. Easiest in Doom 2.3, easiest section by far for me is Mystic. Don't do anything with the power armor team at all. Just they're stuck there. I don't even use Falcon as a plugin as much anymore. I still do, but not as much. Pimtech also haven't done anything with this. I don't think Ghost is all that is all that you need her for. Dark Dimension anymore. Ravagers are trash, as you can see. Don't bother with them. Shield, another team, not important. Maria Hill, Black Widow, and Yo-Yo are all on other teams. Nick Fury I use with Secret Avengers. Coulson has value on War Defense, but that's about it. Secret Avengers, one of my favorite teams that brought them all to DD5. Love this team. Very, very strong. Shadowland. This is a team that I really should be upgrading more, so I probably will be over time bringing these characters to level 85. I had been saving all my gold and using it for teal gear, but now that I have extra gold reserves, and I'm not spending much on teal gear as much anymore now that I've finished 85, I'm going to, bring these characters up to level 85. And, I don't think I'm going to be putting teal gear on them or anything, but definitely I will be doing that. I did put in some extra T4s this month. I put the Electra passive, for example, because, that I think is helpful for keeping Night Nurse and White Tiger alive. And I think that may have been my only new one, I think. Yep. That was my only new one on this team, but I did put Blue ISO on the entire team. I used to only have it on White Tiger. So that made my Shadowland bigger, but it's still pretty small for my alliance. I think I have one of the smaller ones on my alliance at 713, 714, whatever K. So, and I did pull I pulled a 6 red on Daredevil, I think from a basic Red Star Orb. So, my team's gotten a little bit stronger. Sinister 6, really haven't done anything with this team other than just bringing Doc Ock to Legendary, DD5 Legendary. I have great red stars on this team, but I just think their best days are behind them, and so not a team I heavily invest in. There's been, rumors about the Spider-Verse, but nothing worth investing in other than, when you need symbiotes for raids at this point, in my opinion. We'll see how these rumors play out. That sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. I haven't done anything extra with Supernatural. I do use these 4 with Hela on War Offense. And then symbiotes. I brought 2 symbiotes to DD5. This is still the team I use for raiding. They do very well in 2.3. So that, it is what it is. It's just something I do because I got to raid and get through nodes. Uncanny. I did bring Psylocke to gear tier 13, and I put this T4 on her just because I was using her on War Defense. And I liked having the evade on her to make her last a little bit to toss back debuffs. And that's it. That's all I've done on this team. Haven't done anything to Storm, even though I have 7 reds on her. That was just because I have a lot of T4 materials. It was not because it's something I would recommend you do. But I'm just explaining why I did it. This team is, hot trash. It's just used for a certain event. Chaos Theory and so forth, I think it's called. Wave 1 Avengers, not important anymore at all. Black Widow's on another team. Just this team is really not, it's just for people who've built the team up high, you'll throw it with a couple other Avengers on it, but it's really not important. Weapon X, this is something obviously I changed since the last video. I did unlock and build Omega Red, who's been fantastic. I did bring a couple others from the team to DD5. Don't regret that. This is a strong team. It can easily punch up. First of all, it's big. I've got a 961K team unbuffed, but it would punch up huge. You can punch up 500K, 400 or 500K, if you know what you're doing against heroes for hire. X Factor, I brought Longshot and Shatterstar to DD5. That's a byproduct of the fact that I was racing and needed to use mutant gear. Plus, I had misclicked and brought in Adam Warlock because really some of the better places to use mutant gear is in Legendary section. But once I made that misclick, I needed to use mutant gear elsewhere. I don't hate this choice because Longshot and Shatterstar are still very good characters, but they've been out for almost a year at this point. So, they're long in the tooth. They're getting power crept. It is what it is. XForce, I haven't done a lot with this team. I did pull 7 red stars on Cable, which doesn't mean much. Then doesn't change much for me. Some people use him on War Offense with the Eternals. And then Young Avengers, I have not done much of anything with that team either. I use Scroll Girl alone. The rest of this team is not important. So that gives you a sense of where my roster's at and what I'm doing. But overall, it's been a big month for my roster. What I'm doing right now, like I said, is not spending all that gold on teal gear. I'm really focusing on what my horde looks like of gear. What do I need to start farming in terms of orange gear to get that back up so that I can bring new characters to gear tier 15. And then, I'm going to acquire teal gear slowly over time. Don't plan on just bringing a lot of characters up in teal gear until, that becomes more necessary for me. Right now, I'm pretty happy with where my roster's at. Don't feel the need that I need to rush and do that. All right, guys. If you like this video, smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. If you've got any comments, questions, you can leave them below. You can also go to my Discord. That is linked below as well. You can also go to my Twitch stream. That is linked below too.